Hello everybody. I've been fiddling. So, I promised that as of yesterday when we completed the triangle and we had done all of that I would sit down later that day and I would prick some holes in our new brown template that shows up better on camera and then start winding some bobbins. And I have. I also got me a Steam Deck. Now, nice Mr. Amazon man bought it earlier today, so while I ordered it, and quite traditionally for some reason I seem to be the last on the Amazon distribution list, my stuff usually comes between 8 and 10 at night, or whenever is most inconvenient, frankly. It arrived just after I got up this morning. So I downloaded the software and I've set up some buttons. So with any luck, I can now press buttons. The only downside is it does not actually tell me which scene is visible on the actual Steam Deck. So there is a little bit of room for improvement with this device. And maybe they will do something with that later. But as it was less than half the price of the next one up, I was expecting it to be a bit pants actually, but it's got little LCD buttons and you can assign different icons to things. So I've got kind of default icons with beautiful little words on them. So, hence, I pressed the me button and my avatar of me appears on the screen. So, there truly is some hope. So, I'm going to scare you a little. And I mean this in a kind and gentle way. I have wound half the number of bobbins we need to do the triangle, right? Now, obviously it's the whole square, but half the number of bobbins. You're going to understand why I find bobbins really anxious inducing, right? Seriously, dog, stop trampling. If I have to talk to you and give you the lecture on trampling again, I will not be pleased. So, let me regale you with some bobbins. Ready? This is half the bobbins. Now, like that doesn't really give you a lot of scale, right? Let me collect them. Or you can see my hands, that gives you a bit of scale. But let me collect them all up together. Remember, this is half. I put elastic band around them to hold the pairs together. But this monumental, this big wad of bobbins is only half. Now, with skinnier bobbins, obviously they take up a lot less space. But as you can see from this, you can't see from the side, but this is like 1.5 inch tall pile of bobbins. And what it will mean is that bobbins on the pillow will be an issue. But I went with the chunky ones because, I'm a chunky kind of girl. And, but we are finally ready to start the actual. I'm going to leave a few pairs of bobbins on my cushion for a minute. And yes, they have tried to mate. So let me move you off. Not sure where I'm going to put them. There will have to do. Right, let's pin down our square, which is not very square to you. Let me try and make the square more square. Hang on. Tilt the camera a bit. There we go. Square's a bit more square. I do have backache, I should warn you, so this may not be the longest stream in living history. But we shall pin down our pattern because, you kind of need it to stay still. Now, obviously, in theory, once the pattern is underway, the pins in the pattern hold it still. But you also need the edges not to come up and catch on things. So I have my pot of extra fine pins to fling around the room. we are ready. So we need a pin. And we're going to put it in a hole. And we're going to take off an elastic band. And we're going to lengthen the bobbin a little bit. Now, I have wound them all on, and already this one is trying to come undone, which is not ideal, but there we go. One pair of bobbins. I haven't actually directly worked with these bobbins yet, so I'm not quite... Well, I did a little bit, but I didn't do a lot. But they are considerably chunkier, which is much more up my street, as you well know. Fine and dainty. Well, it wasn't the fine and dainty that was the problem so much. It was the lightweight. And these, they're not heavy, but gravity does kind of... I don't know if you can hear that. It does kind of plop on the pad. So gravity is a thing, and it is only a good thing in my opinion. So let me put that on there. We will need you in a second. So it looks a little bare. They always do to start with. Pinsy pins. First actual pin. There we go. So the noise of the bobbins will be louder because they're a bit heavier, which probably works best for you, to be honest. Gives you something else to listen to. Now let's pull you out and give everything a little bit of a tug. Move you down, pull you out, give you a bit of a tug. Because we're trying to make this absolutely perfect. We will fail, but we will be fixing mistakes. We will be scrutinising what we do. There will be no changing of mind. That's too short. Let's loosen you a bit more. See, this one has kind of wound and unwound itself a little bit. Well, it's not unwound, it's just done funky stuff. Let me sort this out a little bit, because, hey, we haven't even started, it's already looking funky. Let's try and reduce that down to slightly less funky. The problem is, and it is the problem, it is a problem, is that the part here, if I move this up, this part here where the thread is tapered, so it's smaller here, fatter here, so it can slide up, which you don't want it to do. In theory, it should really be the other way around. It would be better of it if it was the other way around, because this would then not encourage it to ride up, and in fact encourage it to, gravity and tension, in fact, would persuade it that it really is going the other way. And so that really would be the most ideal thing for it, is that it was thinner at the bottom, if it has to be thinner. Flat is also good. Removing of jumper, sorry. I will be putting it back on shortly, I'm sure. Hello, welcome to menopause. So, yes, welcome to also dog scratches, if you can see them. I tried to trim his claws. He doesn't like that. I paid the price. Actually, I didn't try to trim his claws. I tried to pick something off one of his claws. Apparently that's even just as bad. So yes, bobbin design is a thing. Now, if I had the equipment, I would be able to make bobbins. I'm not sure I'd want to make bobbins because they're a bit small and delicate. I'd be making very chunky bobbins. I certainly wouldn't be making thin, delicate bobbins. But I definitely would not make them so that they were tapered in that direction. So future squares may be on slightly different bobbins, we shall see. But already we have not cursed about spangles. Other than the slipping of the thread, we're not likely to have any obvious problems with these bobbins, so we should be good. And we need to yoink and put you down and give you a bit of a pull. Next pair of bobbins. I have changed a few settings. So the adverts now do not come on a few minutes after the stream starts. They come on half an hour later because, well, I could. Because every half an hour isn't that bad. Why do I have ads? Well, with all due respect to the universe, I'm spending a lot of time on this. And while I am primarily doing this for my own edification and documentation of this process, because I just think it would be interesting for me to have a record, at the same time, for the mere cost of 1.5 minutes of ads every 30 minutes, if there is even the tiniest chance, Twitch, this one's bent, you can go away. Twitch can pay me, even if it's $5 every year or something, it all goes towards the funds of offsetting, like, the cost of getting the ring light and not just a light, or the cost of getting the Steam Deck so I can do this better, or the cost of new bobbins, the cost of, printing the pattern and all the rest of it. So I'm not after you guys to give me money, because I would just not. I don't expect any of you to. If you want to, you are very welcome. But it is never, I don't expect you to subscribe to my channel and pay money in a more direct manner. I don't expect you to give me bits, although again, if you'd like to, that's great. But if by doing this anyway, I can raise a few quid to, I don't know, buy dog treats, to buy more bobbins, to buy different thread and try it for something, to all of those kind of, if I can have, I'm not going to say an income, but technically an income from it that I can use to feed back into itself, sort of thing. That is a good thing, because obviously at the moment I've paid out for the ring light. The camera I already had, but I had to buy the bits so that it would not power down every hour, because it was chewing through batteries, even though I'd bought more batteries. So I bought more batteries. So this is not a cheap hobby, and although I'm not doing anything excitingly complicated, it's all money out my pocket, and I don't begrudge it. But if Twitch can help cover the cost of that, I'd be a bit stupid to look a gift horse in the mouth, wouldn't I? But as you can see, we've only done a handful of bobbins and already it's looking a little crowded. So, bobbins being bigger is potentially... No, I didn't get that right. Or did I? That's not the right pin. You're the right pin. But you're the wrong side of that thread. That's what looks funny. There we go. And then... Right. So that's what... 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6... That's 7 pairs of bobbins, and they take up this. And there's the best part 50. So that's just kind of... We're not even a fifth of the way through, and we're taking up a decent chunk. I need to pull that pin, give you a tug, put you in there, wrap you round. Yoink. Next pair of bobbins. does seem that nearly every single pair, one of the bobbins has tried to unwind itself. In fact, that one is really catastrophically annoyed with me, so I'm going to try and fix some of that. As I said, it's because they're tapered, and so even though you wind it on with decent tension, the reality is that it can, if it moves up just even a tiny bit, which of course by default gravity will pull it to do so, and the tension, because the tension of the yarn pulls upwards of the bobbin, it is going to be a thing, which is clearly not a good plan. Bit of a design flaw, really. I need to check my heating. Hang on 1 moment. Where's my heating app? There it is. That's only 18 degrees. Oh, it's definitely menopausy then. Ow. It's really bizarre. Over the years, my parents always had the house really, really cold. I'm talking 15 or below, right? Often 12. So cold was a thing in our house. And as an adult, working, and all the rest of it, choosing to not be cold is a thing. If you can afford it, of course. Now, this house, like my parents' house, has a 2-zone heating system where the upstairs is on a separate thermostat to downstairs, and so at night you can warm or keep to a reasonable temperature, because of course we don't have air conditioning in the UK, but you can keep to at least a certain temperature without having to warm downstairs. So downstairs can get really nice and cold because, well, you're not there and you don't care. And then, and you keep upstairs. Or during the day, you only really heat downstairs because it'll warm upstairs anyway, but you only really warm the house bit you're in. So it is, to me, it was very logical. And when I came to view the house, they were like, "Oh, we have to warn you, the heating's really weird." And I went, "Oh, great, a two-zone heating system, I'm used to that." In fact, it always struck me as a bit odd when houses don't have that. Why would you, let's say you want your heating at 21 degrees, because you want to walk around in a t-shirt or something. Well, why would you heat upstairs when you're not upstairs? Why would you? Now, as a child, I obviously spent a bit more time upstairs than my parents because I spent my time in my room. And that potentially is a thing, so I guess from that point of view, you need to make sure that it's not too bad, and obviously you don't want pipes to freeze and things. But you can have different temperatures upstairs and down, and because obviously upstairs benefits from downstairs anyway, the upstairs heating as a general rule does a lot less. So I don't know, it just always made perfect sense to me, and apparently I'm the only one, so... but that's fine, because I like it. Ping, that'll be co-worker. Yep. I'll read it in a minute. So as I say, done a bit of tweaking. I've got a Steam Deck to press buttons now to help do a few things. See, I swear I sorted that bobbin out and it's already looking mangly. I can always sort it out again later. It's just easier when it's not attached to your work. You'll also notice I'm having less problems finding the holes. That's because I poked it with a bigger stick. It's always a bonus. So... time for a sip of Coke. which I didn't top up before I started. How stupid was that? More bobbins. Another one. See, it just seems to be. Clearly this is the downside of this particular bobbin, is that all your careful windings on will creep up the bobbin and look all tangly. I mean, they're not tangled, but they look like they should be, if you know what I mean. And of course, technically they are tangly, as she's already struggling, because I'm struggling to lengthen it because the yarn has kind of gone round and above the sort of the working edge is no longer part of, it's no longer at the top, it's further down. Right, let's do the obvious thing, put that on, stop the pings. Right. So adds in 2 minutes 40 seconds apparently. As I said, I've been tweaking, I've been a good girl, I've been trying to make this better so I can see the ads are coming. I wasn't sure it was going to work, but it actually has told me, so there's a little green message and it says, ads in 2 minutes 19 seconds. Rather than it just surprising me with ads. Another bent pin, we'll get rid of you. You're slightly bent, but yeah, I think you're livable. Missed. So yes, we are finally underway, actually making the neck curtain. First square of many. I am going to make a graphic to represent where we're at. It will basically be 21 squares with triangles, and we'll colour in each triangle as we complete it. So we have kind of not an Indiana Jones dotted circle kind of thing, but you know, bit of a track as to where we're getting. Because obviously it will be somewhat repetitive, because it will be very repetitive. And as I've said, I think to an extent, I'm still undecided about doing some off screen, because I kind of want to as I said, I really do want to document the journey, which kind of implies doing it all on screen, but at the same time, surely that's got to be boring for you. I mean, listening to me ramble's got to be enough. You'll also notice how much faster this is going without the hindrance of spangles. I thought I'd just mention spangles for a laugh. As you can see, the add. There we go. going to need this to point this way a bit more. So let's tweak you. There we go. Sure. Oh, yes, backache. What I really need is one of those home medic thing, back massage chairs. That's what I need. Oh. But they cost a fortune. Have you seen the price of those? They truly are hyper expensive. I have sat in one. They're a great and glorious thing. But they are absolutely ludicrously priced. I'm not saying they're not worth it, but it's a lot of money. Suspicious my dogs are elsewhere. As all pet owners know, when they're not where they normally are, something is afoot. See, you have the advantage over me while I'm doing this, that you're listening to music. I'm not. I can't hear it. Now, I could get myself some earbuds and listen to it too. But I find prolonged wearing of headphones and earbuds painful. So, what I used to do when I was gaming is I'd have the TV on in the background, but obviously that's copyright material. The music that's currently playing is you are allowed to stream with it free of copyright infringement and penalty clauses or payments. I mean, you buy it as a one-off payment for the music, but it's like £10 or something. It's it's not. We're not talking you pay £1,000 just so you can pay it or something stupid. Whereas, of course, copyright infringements cause problems. So, obviously can't, I can't listen to a film or an audio book or any of the other usual things I would normally do while doing some of my hobbies. So it means I'm sitting here in silence, which is something that makes me marginally less comfortable. And not ridiculously so. I mean, I'm not scared of silence, but it's nice when working like this to be. I find audiobooks are good, or a film that you've seen 100 times. And the default film is Harry Potter, because frankly, I can almost. Why can't I find this hole? Partly because that's 2 pins, which won't help. Because while I made the holes big, didn't make them big enough for that. That might help. This one, I did check fairly carefully. So yes, I'm having to sit here in respective silence, which is slightly weird. To give you an idea, when we get to the cloth stitch section, it's about 1/3 of the bobbins. This is why I said chunkier bobbins bring their own problems of just the size of them. Now, I am finding it much easier to work with chunky bobbins, as you can probably already tell, just by the sheer fact that I haven't been cursing for the last 20 minutes. But it does, like everything, there are pros and cons, and the cons of bigger bobbins is the fact that they're bigger and they take more room. So this is 1/3. Well, 3 more bobbins. No. Yeah, 2 more bobbins, and we will be 1/3 of the way through it. That's kind of plenty. I mean, as you can see, if I bring these 2 around a little bit, that encompasses. Let me zoom. Oh, that is zoomed out. There you go. But it is a lot of bobbins. It is as what the almost minimal, because they're bunched together as much as they want to go. 1/3 of the bobbins is kind of, well, it's covering 90 degrees of a circle. That says it all. 1/3, so it's going to take 3/4 of a circle for all the bobbins to be on the mat and flat. Now, obviously, cloths allow me to layer them, but again, by default, I would normally layer, say, this third. Well, that's 1/4 of a circle to try and cover up with the cloth, and then we often end up, as you've seen before, with multiple layers of cloths it is going to be unique and challenging, but we are already at a point we can start pushing down some pins. Let me turn the pillow so I can check what I've got. And of course then I can't see over my glasses. So, because basically by the time we get down to, I mean in theory, and I do say in theory, because I don't trust it, I can start reusing some of these pins. Now obviously as we are getting wider, you will need additional pins because, well, otherwise it will get too thin. But in theory, we only need 2 or 3 layers, so we could, start reuse the top sections and start revealing the actual knit curtain as we go. But to be honest, as you may have noticed, I kind of like to deal in lumps, so I would get what I will generally do is get to the bottom of this and then start reusing at the top on that cloth stitch section because it uses less pins. Then we will start with the rose ground section underneath, so that's this little box here. We will start there and there will be new pins obviously, but at the same time we will have a bit of a backwash of pins that we can use. And so yes, we are doing quite well really. The hardest part is, scraping them around, but due to the weight they don't tend to tangle as much. They move forward, but they don't tend to tangle as much as the lighter ones do because, well, they don't, if I sneezed right now they wouldn't fall off the board, which is frankly a bonus. So sleeping dogs. That's a good noise. You know what they need to do with pins? They need to make the head of the pin out of steel, and enough steel so that when you waft a magnet of reasonable strength over it, all the heads end up at the magnet end, so that you can pick them all up the right way up and then slam them into something so that all the heads are up, all the tails are down. That would be nice. Dog alert, something moved in the universe. The Amazon man has been, there is no other Amazon man due. It doesn't matter, dog. Doesn't. shunt you round a little bit more. Yeah. See, as I said, this is where a bolster cushion works really well, because once you're done with the pair, you chuck them over the back, and they stay there. And then you come along to do the next one, so you grab the next two bobbins from around the back, and your working area stays really clear, which is kind of nice. You don't end up with the trying to work at the side on an edge kind of thing, as I'm about to do with these last couple. So bolster cushion's quite good for that, because it's much easier to just chuck them over the back. And as I say, for some reason they don't seem to tangle, whereas flat cushions, they seem, you know, mating of and tangling of threads is much more common. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it's usually really easy to find the one you want, because, well, it's going to be on top wherever it is. And it's let's shunt you round quite a bit. I know what I haven't done. Pulled you out. Give me a tug. Let's take you down. Put you in the hole. Give you the tug that you need. Yep. My brain's just reminded me of something I was thinking of potentially doing, which is a thing called magic loops. What are magic loops, Liz? Magic loops. As you put the bobbins on the cushion, you loop some thread through it, because come the end of the square, we're going to have to try and poke the crochet hook through the pinhole to join them together. And the idea of the magic loop is you don't need to poke that. You put the bobbins through the loop that you put on it earlier and just pull. And that pulls their thread through the thread, so you only really need minimal kind of stuff, and then you're off to a flying start, and you know you can tie your knot and you're done, sort of thing. So I was going to do that and I completely forgot, but that involves an awful lot of loops, trying to have another pin to hold the loops well out the way, and frankly it's takes some getting used to, I think is the right phrase for that. It is not, I mean, it sounds glorious and easy, right? But it isn't quite as simple as it sounds. I have showed those spangles, Who's Boss. They are currently, well, actually the ones I pulled off yesterday are still in the cloth that I put them in, and I have ignored them, actually. That's more what's happened with them. But we have different bobbins, and we are happy with the different bobbins in the sense of they're not annoying the crap out of me. So as you can see, it does mean that well, it's been an hour, and obviously I've stopped for, I've had some yakking to do, and you know, clearly that we know that slows the process down, but I am definitely in the process of speeding through in comparison to where we were with spangles, and the only slowdown we've had is the fact that the taper on these bobbins means that the wound on thread likes to move, but as long as it doesn't come off, it's not, technically it doesn't really matter. So it's much easier to do the flipping of the bobbins. You can kind of flick them with your thumb a bit, and well, they don't catch on anything, and so it works. It's they're much easier to work with. As I was talking to some people last night and explaining about my choice of future bobbin, and I'd kind of settled on these because they're chunky, but they're quite easy to work with because they're fairly straight. And I also pointed out, well, so I've got the choice of the 4 bobbins. I've got little thin Honiton things of useless wafer lightness. I had my favourite chunky, a bit too chunky because the ends of these are really big on those, on my favourite bobbins. And some Danish ones which are similar in size to this but slightly lighter, or these. And I was kind of going with these for now. But that I've also ordered another type of bobbin. So I've ordered a couple of hundred of this other type of bobbin. And it is one of those kleptomania problems that you get with a lot of crafting, is the, ooh, if I really must try, so you get a chunk, and oh, they make them like this, oh, I should try those. And it's right, it's the fact that the stuff has moved has meant that it's not releasing very well. So actually I need that pin, idiot, don't put it back. The bobbins I've ordered are very similar to these, possibly slightly shorter, but very similar to these, but have a more, they are tapered, so they go so the base swells out a bit at the bottom, so they have a little bit more chunk to them. And again, they are very popular with bolster cushions. And as we are gaining a bolster cushion, having more bolster cushion friendly bobbins is not a problem. And obviously having sufficient to do, I won't say multiple projects, because I do not need to have works in progress and be ignoring, for example, this one, as we've already calculated, this could take quite a lot of time. So I do not need to be distracting and wasting good net curtain completing time by doing something else. But at the same time, one of the things we have not technically decided upon is, are we making 21 identical squares, or are we going to do a layer of different ones in the middle, so that there's, say, these round the outside, and 5, because obviously if it's 7 tall it'd be 5, so these become like the border squares, and then a slightly different one in the middle. Now, to an extent, the answer I think is no. Now, these could be the middle squares, because they're quite light and all that kind of thing. Rory, don't stand on them, okay? Dog interlude. Hello, dog. Yes, I do love you. No, Amy, get off my shoulders. Rory, I do love you. If you hear dog, I apologise, he's headbutting the mic. What are you doing? Ow, Amy. What? Oh, no, I don't want to be mugged. You were asleep like 5 minutes ago. Go and do more of that. Yes, I know you're awake now. Thank you. Get your nose out of that. Puppies. Puppies. Just go and do puppy things. Go and do puppy things. So yes, I've ordered some very similar to these, but made of a slightly different wood, so they won't be quite as heavy, I don't think, because these are oak, which are lovely, because they got a bit of weight to them. So yes. Well, this is one of the problems. If you go and look on eBay, you would cry, right? They have got, there is a range of cost. Now, if you think back to the hated spangled bobbins, these are very common in the UK. Because they just are, right? The cost of one spangled bobbin can range between, you can pick up 50 pairs, so 100 bobbins, for say 10 quid, because they're someone's cast off and they don't know how much they're worth. or you can find people trying to sell you one single bobbin for £30. Yes, I repeat, £30. This seems to be the going rate for those style of bobbins. These ones, I think, were £40 for 50, so they're like 50p each bobbins. With a bit of... And then, sorry, well, not quite, it's more like 75p or whatever. So these are less than £1. This is good. But when you want 200 of them, yeah. It is... Bear in mind, most of my bobbins I've got about 200 of, although my favourite ones I've got 250. She says checking how much were the ones I bought yesterday. Hang on. The ones I bought yesterday were purchases. They were £25 for 50, so they were 50p each, and I've obviously ordered 4 of them. And clearly that, you know, I would consider that a reasonable price. By the way, we've got ads in about 2 minutes 43 seconds. So I don't consider that a bad price. And in fact, anything, the more bobbins for less, the good. And so hence some of my bobbin purchases have been off German websites, because I think it was £15 for 50 Danish bobbins. That's a bargain. And of course they're still being sold, so if I really love those, I get to keep, you know, I can buy, you know, an almighty shed load without going broke, whereas some of them, going broke is clearly, you know, a potential option. So yes, it is a struggle. It is not cheap, but you don't have to use fancy bobbins. When my brain first said, Liz, you need to do lace bobbin work. Clothes pegs, those little dolly clothes pegs. Yeah, I used those, and I actually really got on with them, because they're about this kind of size. And yes, they were a bit rougher, and they had some spiky bits because they had the hole in the middle, and they're not particularly well polished. But they actually did work really, really well. So, to be fair, you can do it cheap if you want. Hang on. No. One is faux pas. Oh my god. One faux pas. Seize. Backtrack. We are in Clostitch territory. We have faux pas somehow. So let's try and work out how this is wrong. That's because I didn't take you out. There we go. So under you, under you, under you. No, other way around. And under you. So now we are back where we started, I think. Undo you for a minute. So we are back where we started. We're on the Clostitch section, and I almost didn't notice. Look at that. We have introduced 1/3 of our bobbins. I wound about 25, so we can do the Clostitch section and start on the rose ground, and then I'll run out of bobbins. Which, as you may recall, over the last couple of weeks, took me quite a while to get to this kind of stage. So clearly the whole lacking of spangles has really improved the speed, which, to be fair, is not a bad thing. So yes, you were asking after the cost. Let me put this pin in and I can show you. So let me leave that there because that's a really, really good kind of... I thought I did a button for this, but I didn't do a button for this. Okay, I was going to do a button for this. I have not yet done a button for this. So let me... let me do this. So, for example, if we go to make this a bit bigger so you can see it. Let me go to eBay. So, if we look for nice bobbins, you will soon see that there is quite a difference. So there are 11 bobbins with a starting bid of £9. This bobbin, which looks remarkably like all the other bobbins, is only £2. There's one with writing on, £2.50, £2.50 for a lot of bobbins, for individual bobbins, £2.75 for a bunch of really knobbly ones for, you know. So the problem is some of them are, let's call them reasonably priced. Some of them are not. Now, let me scroll back. I mean, okay, this is from the States, but seriously, 6 bobbins, £105. There are words, and one starts with F, the other one is off. Here is one that I was really tempted by, because if you look, they are very similar to my favourite kind of bobbin. But again, £129, and there's actually only something like 20-something bobbins in there. Yeah, we won't be doing that. 8 with beads and 6 without, potentially £75. Not a hope in hell. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 70 something pounds. I mean, a single one, £52. I mean, unless it's signed by like Marie Antoinette or something, how is it £52 for a single bobbin, right? A lot of 108 for 50 quid. That, well, you know, if 108 of them are £50, that makes them 50p a bobbin. That's not so bad. That's kind of acceptable. I mean, obviously, the more you can get for less, the hallelujah. But you know, it's not bad. 40 quid, making them £1 each. Getting a bit more, getting up there a bit. But at the same time, if I go to one of my favourite German sites, let me zoom it back in a little bit. So, they're not the Danish ones I like. These are the Danish ones I like. So they're €60 for 50, and they're coloured. But if you look here, 35.95, so that is 35.95 to us people. 50 of them for €40, and there's less than and I think there's euros to the pound, not pounds to the euro. So you're talking, say, £35 for 50. That's a good price. So I bought some of them. They do a few variants on a theme. That's per bobbin, which is why we don't look at those. They've got some really long ones. I don't really want really long ones. They do kind of Honiton-y stylish ones here, which are, do they do 50? They do 50. So again, they're $43.95 for 50. But they are kind of Honiton bobbins, and I hate those. These were quite interesting. These ones here at the bottom with the really thin necks and chunky bobbins, but they just look like they're going to break. They just scream not for that. But what they also do, no, I didn't mean to click on that. I was trying to click on this. They do hooded bobbins. Now, the art of the hooded bobbin is a glory I have not yet tried. Underneath this big chunky bit at the bottom, bottom's to the left by the way, underneath the big chunky bit is quite a skinny bobbin. And you wind it onto the skinniness, and then the big ball at the bottom stops this hood from falling off. And the hood protects the thread from your hands and the atmosphere. I mean, it's not hermetically sealed or anything exciting, but it does stop you touching it, whereas here, obviously, I can touch it. It means it's protected. So if you're working with, I don't know, silk or other delicate threads, it is much more protected. I mean, this is a very German thing. Hooded bobbins are a German thing. But I am quite tempted to... We have the beans, I'm sorry. Excuse you. So they are a thing. Now, if you go to, let's see, the whole bobbin shenanigans can be a little scary. Now, some of them are reasonably priced, some of them are not. So, for example, a pack of 10 Midland bobbins without spangles is £9. Under £1 each. I mean, don't get me wrong, you obviously need a lot to make a lot. This is the style of bobbin I've ordered, so let me click on this. This is the style of bobbin I ordered, but not the wood type I ordered. So, as you can see, they're quite chunky and they're slightly fatter at the bottom. So they're very similar to the ones I'm using. In fact, this is the person I bought the ones I'm using from. So this is a Spanish bobbin. These are cool, but they show a big picture of bobbins. A pair. £7.95 for a pair. Now, don't get me wrong, I would love for all my bobbins to be ebony. I am absolutely obsessed with ebony wood. And the fact that it's so dark and all of that, but I am not prepared to pay that level of money. So, for example, here is 10 of my favourite kind of bobbins. £17.50. Well, that makes them £1.75 each. Oh look, I can have 2 of them for £7. No, I won't. I am not paying £3.50. The rosewood ones do look nice as well. These are the ones that I've ordered. So these are the actual ones that I've ordered. So these are, these are £37, well actually, these are £37.72 for 50 bobbins, making them well under £1. I mean, they're going to feel quite light because they're made out of boxwood, but they are quite chunky, and you look at how they sit in a hand, they're quite, well, chunky, and chunky is me. So I've ordered 200 of those, just to really scare myself. I really like those. Oh, here's 27. No one wants an odd number of bobbins ever in the history of the world. And again, £57.64. Let's not. These look alright, but they're a bit like the Danish bobbins, but they're kind of just not. It's funny how you say lace bobbin and then get completely not bobbins and not lace, but this is pretty. Do not get me wrong. This is pretty. It's a seamless lace thing that goes over, well, in this case, a glass, but it forms a picture. This is beautiful. Yeah. But not what I wanted. So, these are more French, but they're very similar to a large extent to my favourite kind. But I don't think you're getting all the ones you see here. I bet you if you scroll down and actually look at what you get. Beautiful collection of French things. Please choose how many you would like. If you'd like more than 6, you have to say. So, yeah, and you can only buy 3. So that's £25 for 3 bobbins. That makes them £5 and a sniff each. bobbins are just, for what they are, which is tiny little lumps of wood. Many of them are mass produced. I need to point out, these are not necessarily individually hand turned things. So again, Danish bobbins, £9 for 10. Might even be 12. 2, 4, 6, 8. That's 10. That's a fine price. We can cope with that. They're calling these French. They're not French, they're Swiss, but, you know, who am I to argue? £12. But it's only 6 of them. And so you see lots of these and you're kind of going, oh, I wouldn't mind those. Actually, at that price, no. Because, I mean, for working on my bolster pillow, I haven't actually worked out how many bobbins I would need. But the answer is a lot, right? We already know. Because we know this square takes nearly 100 bobbins. So if we are working the entire width of my thing, which is 3 squares wide, and we're working in one go, instead of it being 100 bobbins for half the width of the square, well, it's going to be 200 for the width of the square. And we definitely have the bean. And so it will be 600 bobbins if we did this style of pattern at this density. Now, obviously, I did vaguely mention that under the bolster cushion, I would probably go up to a more crochet cotton size thing, so it would be less. But we could be easily talking, I need 500 plus bobbins. Yeah, I'm already kind of not sure about that. Maybe I would make strips and join the strips, and so a lot less bobbins. But, you know, you're potentially going to need a heck of a lot of bobbins. And I can mix and match. You can use different kinds of bobbins together. It doesn't really matter. But to me, obviously, to a large extent, it's less of a brain fart if all the bobbins are roughly the same. I mean, they don't have to be identical. But if you've got some of the ones that I've been using today and, say, spangled ones, that's just too different. You've got thin ones, thick ones, ones with spangles, ones without. You don't want to be doing that. You can use, so I would imagine the ones that I've ordered yesterday that have the slightly wider bobbins, you could probably mix and match those with these ones without getting too frustrated by the differences. But as you can see, bobbins are not cheap. They're not expensive, but they are not cheap. It is very rare that you find, even on eBay, someone's discarded, you know, granny died, here's her lace making stuff. You know, here's 200 bobbins for, you know, 50 quid or something. It is very rare. People who are selling them seem to know that people will want nice ones, because who doesn't want nice tools? Excuse you. She is so vocal. But at the same time, some of these bobbins are just ludicrously expensive. So here are the ones that I've got. So these are the ones that I'm using today. So I'm using the small ones. And this is a pack of 50. So as you can see, stop giving me the advert. So if I go for, I think I went for the 12 centimetre ones actually. So they are 50p each. You can't, and because they're made out of oak, they're really quite nice. So I really do quite like these. I would have ordered the Spanish ones in a different wood if they'd been available, but the only person who had different wood only was sending like 10. Well, that's no good to me. So yes, I am quite pleased with my bobbin hauls, but as you can see, it's not a cheap thing. And the whole idea of the bolster cushion doing it in one is very much a thing. Now let me see if I can find this. Part of the inspiration for, by the way, you can follow me on Facebook. I don't tend to accept follow requests on Facebook, just because I tend to keep it to people I directly know, for example. But if I find my groups and I go to beginner bobbin, yeah, I think it was this one. And if where's the search? I think it was in here. You know how hard it is when you want to find something on Facebook? It's frigging near impossible. Now, I know I replied to it. I'm after posts. See, how is that a bolster cushion? Seriously, people. Posts you've seen. I'm looking for a specific post and I would recognise it very quickly if I saw it. Because there were a load of women in a room and they were doing like a day thing. Shame you can't do posts I replied to rather than just ones I've seen. Let's try. Posts. I'm determined to find this. Yes, I know that feeling well. Half of them seem to be my posts. No. The worst thing is like everything, it was one I replied to. And I hate the fact that you can't say, this is one I replied to. Here's a cushion I was making. Oh no, that wasn't me. Oh, it was me. I was going to say it is me. Yeah, that was me making cushions. But you see, I don't want ones from me. I want ones this year, for starters. Because I remember posting, where did that come from? And it wasn't that long ago. And of course, you're never going to find it. I could have sworn it was in this group. I will smack you. Not that I would. See if it was in this group. Scroll. Because it wasn't that long ago. That had potential, but wasn't it? See, that's kind of what I had in mind when I was thinking of my neck curtain originally, was I wanted something a bit more like that. Was it this one? It was a day event, and it was very like this one, but it was in England. It was done in Liverpool. And she had the most glorious, scary kind of... This is the one thing I really truly hate about Facebook, is you can't find a thing you saw even 20 minutes ago, let alone something you saw days ago. See if I can find it. I'm determined to find it. It'll be on one of the groups, but of course I'm only going to scroll back so far, because I don't really want to bore you with it, because, well, you know, lots of these things look pretty, but it's not going to be in that. It's not going to be in that. It's not going to be in that. I was so sure it was in the beginners group. I could have sworn it was in the beginners group. I would have sworn it was in here. Let me make this window bigger. I know it'll make it smaller for you, but it means I can scroll through it quicker and get a better view of the pictures. Because I know I replied to it. Unless they've deleted it, of course, which is always an option. Where's my page down button? And it could just be further back than I was giving it credit for, so... Scroll. And I hate the fact that my internet loads everything so slowly. Some pages are catastrophically slow. I'm sure it was some beginner who went to a lace meetup thing, and she posted this picture about all these glorious people she met, as people do, because not that I'm social and went out, but people do these things. But I don't remember it being back this far, but maybe it was. Hang on, what's that? No, it's a single picture. There were multiple pictures. There it is! This is the picture of gloriousness, right? Look at this bolster cushion. Look at the size of this bolster cushion. Just look at it. But look at what she's making. While it's not going to be a lace curtain, I don't think, because, well, it's blue. But look at what she's making. And this is arguably what I want to achieve, right? This is where I want to find myself. And you can see from this why filming it would be difficult, because realistically she's working on almost the, if this was a clock face, the 9 o'clock kind of point, you know, between 10 and 9 on the front. So you'd have to have a camera almost at the angle this camera is, and you do not need to see me, I assure you. Plus, for me, getting that angle would be difficult. But look at this cushion. Look at it. Look at the glory of this thing and the work she's doing on it. It is a thing to behold. And she's my hero, frankly. She's got a lot of bobbins. But if you look at it, it doesn't look like it's like, you know, I worked out a minute ago that if I was using this level of thread and this kind of scale of pattern, for want of a better word, because threads per inch seems a little bit kind of wrong in this. She doesn't look like she's got 500 bobbins there. She I mean, I'm not autistic enough to be able to count them by just looking at them, but I would say there's probably 200, 300 bobbins, but, well, there'd be 200 if I made this square in one sheet. So, but you look, and because they dangle front and back, they don't mingle. And I mean, travelling it, moving it would be a nightmare. I don't know how she moved it there, because just no. You need to strangle it with a blanket or something. But this thing is a thing of beauty. And as you can see, I wrote Brave Woman would be great for my net curtain plan, though, to work it in one piece. It is quite a scary look, but you could make something in one piece. And I really do like it. I have found, as I said, a 27-inch long bolster cushion. And I would guess from that, that's maybe 30-something. But it's not hugely longer. It's not like it's twice the length. I would guess, looking at our hands, that's got to be maybe a yard, maybe a metre, depending on your kind of preferences in life. It's in that region, so it's in the 33, 34, maybe 35-inch length kind of thing. But look at it. It is the holy grail of bolster cushions, frankly. I mean, I know they did a world record one, which was many meters, but you can't live with that. You can't, can you imagine trying to work with something that's like 5 meters long? You'd need a dedicated room. It's like a weaving loom. It becomes impractical to do anything other than you have to work around it, not it around you. Whereas that one is big, but clearly you can pick it up and move it. I mean, it probably weighs quite a lot. I don't know what it's stuffed with. It looks like it's polystyrene, so it's quite light. My one, I think, is going to be full of sawdust, so mine's going to be more like a one of those punch bags. But look at it. Just look at it. The glory. And I look at that and I see a woman making a blue net curtain, right? Because that could be my blue net curtain. I don't think, was there a better picture of what she was making? I mean, there is, but I mean, there's a few angles of her making it, so she's obviously got quite a bit down the back there. There's a bit of a... But you can't really see what she's making, even in this. I mean, you can see here, she's got the same groundwork in this section here. She's got some of those honeycomb fly holes that I talk about there. She's going to be doing some tallies. Yeah, we'll stuff that. But she's got a bit of colour going along the side. We've got ads in a little bit, in a couple of minutes. But this truly is a thing of beauty, and I want... Where was she? Oh, she was not in this country. I thought it was in Liverpool for some reason. But I want to be that woman. I want that bolster cushion, and I want to be able to be in a position to have that many bobbins without crying in the corner. So that is my plan. That truly is the plan of attack. And I'd like to think we are on our way to that. We have hope. We have purchased some things. We can go back to the planning stage once we get to the end of this net gun, and we will plan an all-in-one. So yes, Nauticelt, it is. I think that is part of the problem with lace making, is that a bit like weaving, there is a thing called loom envy with weaving, where someone has more shafts than you. In this case, the woman has more space than me, and clearly much less anxiety over quantity of bobbins. And you know, you sit there and you go off and you do your thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 in the hand. So it is potentially within my future to be in a position where I could try. Now, obviously, what I will do is a bit of an experiment or two with it, possibly while doing this as a bit of a, interlude, because I'm sure this is going to get somewhat repetitive, and while repetitive can be a good thing, and it truly is, sometimes brains don't like complete repetition. It starts making its own jokes and all those kind of things. So, that can be a problem. So I do imagine that I will be... Where did I put my pins? I moved my pins so I could use my mouse. I do imagine that there will be some trials and tribulations. But I am expecting, not any day, but, within the within the memorable time period, I fucked up. How do I know I fucked up? I know I fucked up because my brain's telling me, why does this not feel the same as the last time I did a pin on this side? And where did that go? I was holding it and couldn't tell. I already know I want to undo this. So let's undo this, if you and I. Come on. You. You need to come off for a minute. You're in the way. I did something funky at this pin, and I am aware of it. So let's try this again. Put you back in there. I didn't just do that. last time. I did something else and I can't remember what it was. But I'm convinced I did something wonky. Right, we're back from ads, so that's a good thing. I have wound back and undone the... Because I was convinced I had done something funky at this pin, I was not prepared to leave it, because as we know, we are trying to do all the right things and not have mistakes in it. So I undid it to make sure that I did do the right things. That looks crossed. No, that's supposed to be crossed, that's fine. So that, because we want this to be perfect. Oh, I will have a look, as long as it's public. I don't necessarily want to join it, with all due respect, I'm sure you understand, but I will have a look. I will look for the rope work group, and have a look. It is, in fact, bear with me 1 second, let's get to the end of this. Right, let me move my pins, go back to, bring that back up, go back to magic screen, go back to Facebook, and look for rope works group. There it is. Oh, it is public, so we can go and have a look. And you said, you scroll down, you'll see your last place. So there's a nice little doormat there. And, ooh, that's chunky. That looks utterly fascinating. What the hell's that? Longer some rope. Made some longer rope than the usual skipping rope. The distance is 10 metres. Oh, so the man's making rope. Yes, I understand the principle of making rope. It's the same as spinning yarns. You twist them and then you play them together. So that's a good thing. But I do like his knobbly, middly bit on his twister. Ooh, this is pretty. An anchor. I like that. That's pretty. You see, from a lace making point of view, where the hell do you hide the ends? Because it's clearly not there because they're rounded, and it's clearly there because they're not rounded. Must be some shenanigans going on somewhere here in the middle, I guess. Ooh, this is pretty. It is a rope twister. With weaving, you buy a fringe twister, as it's called, and basically you have a little... What, this one? Or the anchor? I mean, if you were judging a competition, I can definitely see that you could sit there and go, there are gaps between, and like this bit underneath, yeah, the gaps between the crossbar, there's a bit of a gap. So if it was a competition and you needed to be hypercritical, and this is the problem all casters suffer from, is that you... When it's yours especially, you look at it and instantly go, well, that's not the same as that. I try to and then try and be kind to people, because I also realise we're human, and a lot of people are maybe beginners and so have not perfected an even tension. A bit like me with my lace making. I am still really a beginner. And so making mistakes, it's going to happen. But the question is one of the things that I struggle with, and it came up in one of the weaving groups, people would post something, and as we all know, the moment you post it on the internet, all the mistakes leap out at you that you hadn't already spotted. And you get this, and someone would go, oh, that looks really great. You know, obviously next time maybe you'll be changing this, because, well, it's clearly a mistake. And some people would be really hurt by that. And in fact, there is a weaving technique called log cabin, where basically, let's say you have the colours black and white, you do black thread, white thread, black thread, white thread, and then because whichever thread is on top is the colour that you see. So whether your loom has a rising shed or a sinking thread, doesn't really matter. Whichever thread is up will be on top. Now, if you have in your shed, because you have threads at the top, threads at the bottom, and obviously you put your weft through the middle. So when you do that, the warp thread that was on top will be visible. The warp thread at the bottom is at the bottom, and it's visible on the other side, but for the side you're looking at. For the warp thread at the bottom, the weft thread will be the colour that's visible. So to make a log cabin where it say goes black, white, black, white, black, white, black, white, and then you might have two whites next to each other, so the next block you end up with different pictures. Now, I do have, wonder where I could easily find it. The answer's going to be in the GWAM, I think, because it's easier to scroll through the 50 gazillion pictures eventually. As I said, I apologise for my internet that will load really painfully slowly. As you can see, dog pictures. Dog pictures are always a thing. Making of the disasters, setting up my weaving loom, various bits of my house. I can show you my weaving loom later if you're really desperately interested. But I'm trying to scroll back a very long way. In fact, I don't even know if it's in here. It might not even be in here, actually. It needs to go back a long way. I hated those details. It's funny how you look back and go, yeah, I remember hating them. Some of the things that I did were, well, fugly's too nice a word for them. Come on, why can't you just scroll to the other end? Come on. There they are. Now, it's not a very good picture of these, but this is log cabin. So, these have, shame there isn't a closer up picture, actually. Did I not have a closer up picture of that? No, apparently not. Let me try and explain it. So, this is where all red warp threads meets all red weft threads. These are where black warp threads meet black web threads. And these bits in the middle are where you have black, red, black, red, black, red. And obviously, if you look here, you've got a slightly different shade, but you don't. It's an optical illusion. So the threading, on a really simple value might go red, black, red, black, red, black, red, black. Black, red, black, red, black, red, black, red. As a whole, maybe these were all red, these were all black, kind of thing, right? But then these would go black, red, black, red, black, red. These would then have to go red, black, red, black, red, black. So you actually, on close up, you see more of a kind of a spiral. But it's really logical because you've only got, it's plain weave, you really don't have to think too hard about it. So it's either, literally your weft thread's going under, over, the whole way across. Whereas tartan is twill, which is like over 3 under 1, or under 1, over 1 under 3, depending on your point of view. Or 2-2, which is over 2 under 2. But because you can often have a really close-up picture of something. So, where's one of my close-up pictures? We'll pick on this one, right? Here is a really close-up picture, and this is more twill-like, but you can see the green is the weft thread, the white is the warp thread. It's very obvious from the picture. So if you want to know how to make this pattern, pick a point. Pick a point and a line, and you go, well, this has to be down with those 3 up and that down to make those 5 parts, and you plot it out on a piece of paper, and you can work out from that the picture. Now, to be honest, because it is a repetition thing, you can actually work out exactly over and unders, right? And weaving is purely over and under. It just has more rigid strings that you work round. It'd be a bit like you dangling a load of weights off some of yours and then winding the rest around them. That's all this really is. And one of the things I find really difficult, let's use this as an example. This is some double knitting, right? Now, okay, like this, it is not 100% crystal clear, but you can see in the original photograph, bear in mind the photograph could be a lot bigger. I mean, it doesn't work, but if I enlarge it on my screen, it actually enlarges. It's not blurry, right? You can see, and it looks like there's a mistake there actually. Never mind, how come I didn't spot that at the time? But you can count that there are 2 stitches there. There's 1 to the side and there's 3 in the middle. So you can plot this out from the picture. Oh, can someone make me the pattern from that? It's in the picture. Just copy the picture. Copy the picture. I mean, if you wanted to put that paw print on a jumper, so you're going to get a different coloured yarn so that you could do this. Copy the picture. And people are going, oh, I don't know how. Well, you can see the stitches. Pick where you want it. Start. It's just, I find people who struggle with that level of something quite frustrating, because I know they're beginners, but it's graph paper. You can see which squares are coloured in, kind of from space. What do you mean you cannot look at that and see it's X stitches wide, X stitches tall? This gives me my little square. I colour in the square and get the pretty picture. That is my pattern. What more do you want? So I do struggle with these people, and I have occasionally made a comment, but you can see the pattern in the picture. You can count the stitches. Just follow the Oh, you can't say that. Well, I'm sorry. But it's true. So I like you, I try not to be critical. Sometimes it's really, really hard. Here are some of the ugly things that I drew, because I can't draw. It is, hang on, let's go back to something that we should be doing. I pressed the button, there we go. People love patterns, but for example, if you think of a 3-strand braid, the stereotypical, natural, everyone's done it, 3-strand braid, you do not expect to have to write that down. So if you've got 2 strings per section or 3 strings per section, you do not expect to have to explain that it's still a 3-strand braid. And there is a little bit of you that kind of gets worked up going, it's in front of you. What do you mean you can't see that? Now, I struggle because I do programming as well. And I struggle because, let's say, you have a thing on screen. Let's call him Pac-Man, right? You have a Pac-Man on screen, and they follow a tutorial that says Pacman.position.x equals Pacman.position.x plus 1, and it moves to the right. Oh my god. And you're kind of going, well done, great. How do I move it left? Well, let me ask you, Naughty Celt, the non-programmer most likely, and waftier of rope things. If adding 1 to X moves it to the right, how do you think you might move to the left? And if you don't know, that's fine. But I would expect this, for someone who's currently working on a programming course, I would have expected them to be able to work this out by this point in the course, kind of thing. So, now we know you are done. You need to come out. -1. Congratulations! You would be right. The number of them who can't work that out. And you're kind of going, how do you know when you are cold? How do you know that you breathed in and you now need to breathe out? Because, well, it seems so logical. Now, obviously, there are things that maybe seem less logical. And that's fine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the one in the hand. That's good. So, not everything is that blatantly obvious. But at the same time, some of it really truly is. And I had this, I used to hang around in a particular forum. I don't go there anymore. In fact, I have kind of removed all traces of my life from that, because some of the people in there almost defied, belief that they were so stupid. But I had this guy, he went all the way through, took him about 4 months to go through a course, and it literally handheld you every single thing you needed to type to make certain things happen. So obviously, the first few hours were put a thing on a screen, move it around a bit, getting the input to move it around and all the rest of it. Then they did this, then they did that, then they did a bit of this, then they did a bit of that, and they built upon it. No, you don't. But you already are more intelligent than half the people who were following this course, frankly. So you let's put it this way: you'd do fine, right? But like a lot of things, it's maybe not in your interest, and that is a fine thing. I mean, not everybody is interested in everything, and there are lots of things that perhaps you could do. Perhaps you could do really, 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 really well, but it's not interesting to you, so you don't. And I have a lot of respect for that. But when you've got these people who seem to think that by following this, rather crappy course, because it wasn't the best course in the world, but it was complete enough that you should have been on the path to being able to do something. He did, as I say, he spent 4 months doing this course, and it was a couple of hundred, I think it was 100 something hours, of course. So he'd do a bit and do a bit more, and he was studying a degree in computer programming and gaming specifically. So not only did he have this course, he was attending lectures on a daily basis on the subject. Bear in mind, I've basically got no education, right? And he completed a very simple thing. Basically, he did the thing out of the course and submitted it as his degree work. Seemed slightly cheating because, well, chances were is he did not add to it or change sufficiently. It was realistically this, the person who wrote the course's work. But he submitted that, and then he went off and said that he was going to go and learn something else. And we were like, great, see you, enjoy. We didn't have computers in school either. Well, actually, that's not quite true. There was one. It was in a cupboard, and one day a year, you would be called to go and spend half an hour or whatever it was in there. I was sick that day, so I didn't get to it. So I do know that feeling kind of well. I missed my chance. I wasn't a particularly sickly kid. It just turned out that was what I missed. Similarly, the year before, because that was the last year I was in what we call junior school, kind of middle school to the Americans, I think. But I would have been about 10. But when I was 9, I was in the netball team, and one of the glories of the netball team was that once a year they did because we played lots of local schools and there was a bit of a league thing going on. But once a year you played the teachers, but it was more comedy. The teachers would cheat. And I don't just mean a little bit, I mean a lot. Like, they'd pick kids up and they'd cover their eyes and, all this kind of stuff. I mean, it was all in goodwill. It was not meant to be malicious, although obviously these days, you wouldn't get away with it. But, yeah, I was sick. I was in the netball team 2 years. I managed to be sick both days because they didn't tell you when it was coming. That was the other thing. It's not like, oh, on the 1st of October we will. No, it would be. Get ready. In half an hour we're doing the teacher's version. Yeah. So I managed to miss it. I swear they waited for me not to be there. So I missed out, and I was, needless to say, slightly irate because I've been looking forward to that. Because, well, you would. Because, well, we can cheat back, And this was something I'd very much instigated in my fellow teammates, was that come the teachers thing, if they're allowed to cheat, well, then surely so are we. So I was really looking forward to all of that. But, sadly, it didn't come about. I was absent, and I missed my opportunity. Possibly for the best, because I really was a small, skinny kid, and I would have been prime target for the cheating. But, yeah, I miss. There is a piece of me that still resents the fact that I missed that, and it's got to be 40-something years later. So yeah, I miss that. No, I did get to do computing when I was in secondary school, so I think I got when I was 13. Yeah, I would have been I was probably still 12, because my birthday's July, so I'm at the end of the school year, so I think I was still 12. We used to I went to a school called Bishop Ramsey, and named after Bishop Ian Ramsey, real fucking original name in there, guys. And on Bishop Ramsey's birthday, we used to get effectively a lazy day at school. In that you had to come to school. You'll be 61 in January. I'm 9 years your junior, just so that you have a point of reference. I 1 year, the first year I could, for Bishop Ramsey Day, we still had to pick semi-educational things, but they were travel on a barge boat up and down a canal and learn about canals, or go potholing, although how that's quite so educational, it's a little bit more of a stretch. They were sometimes a stretch, so on this particular Bishop Ramsey Day, I chose swimming in the morning and computing in the afternoon. Now, obviously, swimming's fine. We like swimming. Swimming's cool. I can swim. It's doable. You need to go over there before I start using you by mistake. And so swimmy, swim. I had never seen a computer at this point. The only reason I'd picked this one is I didn't want to do any of the others, and swimming was up my alley, so whatever this half day of computing thing was, I was going to have to endure it. It would be, it might be a struggle, but it'll be fine. It was in the school, so it's not like you had to travel to Outer Mongolia to go and see it. First thing they did is they sat us down, and there were like 30 of us, sat us down in pairs, and obviously this is a long time ago, and DOS wasn't really even a thing at this point, but we had model BBC computers, and he said, put your finger on a key, pretty much any key, put your finger on a letter and hold it down. So you did. And it kind of zoomed across the screen, and it was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then he got to kind of like a certain point and went, beep, because the buffer was full. And my brain exploded with joy. That beep was the turning point of my life. That was it. I forevermore have been obsessed with computers. and you will prize one out of my cold dead hands, frankly. We did a small amount of work at the time. You know, it wasn't really a lot because it was only half a day, and you know, we were all thick students, so let's not pretend that, you know, we were all the next Einsteins here. But is that really only 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1 out. Yeah, I feel like I've gone wrong. I feel like I've gone wrong. I know I haven't. Where's the hole? So you went out with the thing. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1 in the head. Right. So, but this beat, it just blew my mind. I mean, seriously, if you'd given me some really good quality drugs, it could not blow my mind as much. Oh, didn't I scroll down enough? I wasn't sure which picture we were looking for, to be honest. Hang on. Let me go back, and we will find said group again. Hang on. Because, of course, I turned off the thing. We got talking about the anchor, and I completely forgot. There we go. What kind of thing am I looking for? Solid black background. Okay, let's scroll down for a solid black background. Some interesting. Well, that's a pretty mat. I like that mat. I know it's quite simple in a way, but I quite like that mat. That's a cool mat. They're pretty. They're pretty. I like those. Especially like the brown one. That looks really fancy. Ah, this one? Further down, okay. The problem I always find with searching through Facebook is that the order almost doesn't seem to be the same every time you do it. And so trying to find some things is distinctly harder. Probably not that one. Although that's pretty black. Ooh, that's another black one. Handle of knife. I do like that actually. Because of course it has to be fairly flat and smooth to be a knife handle. That looks like nice intricate work. You're a round mat, okay. Black background, round mat. Scroll. It is a nice handle. That must be it. There you are. Found you. I found you. Mainly because it says Naughty Celt on it. I know it. That one's you. Because it says so. Maybe if you'd said it's got your name slap bang in the middle, I might have helped. I like that. And I mean, I look at that, and although I don't know quite how the hell you did the ends, because, well, I don't know how you did the ends, but I look at that, and I'm not going to say I could do it. You'll make tea while lads roll. Yeah, I understand. That's why I put the notice in. Rory, my man. Oh, Rory, you're being annoying. It's my face. It is my face. Yes, my face. Yes, it is. Wagging. I do love you a lot. I do. I do love you. But your face in mine is not conducive to anything. Oh. So, Naughty Cow, I look at that mat and I see the path the rope takes. I'm not quite sure how the cue head ends and the beginnings in that. I assume very carefully underneath on the back it's more obvious. But I look at that and I can see the paths. No, get off the bobbins, dog. Let me put my bobbins on my pillow for a minute. Lie down. I look at that and I can see the path it takes, and I'm not going to pretend that I could do it, because I'm not going to pretend that I could do that. But for example, you've kind of got a 3-strand black with things coming in but not quite. So it's not symmetrical. Well, it is symmetrical, but it's not symmetrical top and bottom. So it has a distinct directionality, because there's obviously the kind of twists in the middle, and then underneath it there is a band of 4 threads threads that go across and have a clear path from, say, right to left or left to right, depending on which way you did it, right? But they go in a straight line all the way across. All the rest, everywhere else, don't do that. Yes, it does. Okay, I agree with that. Although I can't... There's one, there's the other. Oh, yes, so they do. Yes, it does. I can see that. Now you've said that, I can see that. I couldn't see, because they were upside down, I guess. The 2 coming down the side were also straight. I could see the one underneath was straight. And I guess if I'd looked at it a bit longer, I would have seen that. But I can... But, you know, clearly this is not my hobby, and I've never actually done anything like it. But... I mean, I wouldn't, starting, I'd imagine it's, for a newbie, my brain would fry a bit trying to start it and keep everything in place. That's why, you use nails, as you said, so I can understand the nails. But, because obviously I have pins for the same reason. But I can look at that, and I'm not going to say I could recreate it. But if I take any one point, so let's take 12 o'clock right at the very top, 2 crossover. There's the next one comes in from beneath, so it has to go over the bottom one and under the top one, and then turns round to come over what was the bottom one, because it's already gone over the top one. I can see the path that it takes, and as I say, I'm not pretending I could do this, because physically there is no reason, and mentally there is no reason why I arguably couldn't do it. I have never tried, and I would probably ham-fist it something good for a... But I look at it and I can see not quite how it was done, because as I say, I can't see any joins and ends and things, and so my brain kind of farts a little in that respect. But I do see the beauty, and I do love how that looks. That's a nice mat. Kind of, how big is that mat side to side? Because, I mean, no offence, that could be anything from like a coaster to, 1.5 meters, depending on the size of rope. I also like the fact that you've got 3 dark ones in the middle and 2 light ones on the outside to give it a bit of 3-dimension. I quite like how that works. Dog's doing strange things. Yes, you are. So yes, I do. I do like this, and as I say, in theory, I'm sure with some practice, I would be capable, eventually, of making such an object. But I will be leaving the rope to you because, seriously, I do not need another hobby. Thank you. I mean, don't get me wrong; it could be quite useful. 18 inches. Okay. Because that's one of the problems I find with a lot of pictures and things like this is there is no scale. As I said, that could easily be like bell ringers rope. So we're talking, half inch to an inch diameter ropes here. And then, it could be huge. Or it could be, almost sewing thread. And it could be tiny. I like that. That would make a great centre mat for a table. Stop licking, dog. I have dog trying to sit in my lap, which is really not that helpful. Much as I love him dearly, he is a big boy. He's not huge, but he is a big boy. You're not a puppy anymore. No, you're 4 now. You're not a puppy. Stop licking my hands. Yes, and I think, but in a way, that's part of the joy of what you do. As you said, it scales with the dimension of the arm that you use, or rope, more accurately. So you could easily make this a huge centre rug for a room just by using really fat rope. Or you could make matching coasters by using, frankly, kind of really tiny, but you wouldn't really call it rope. You'd have to call it string, right? You could do that because the work is the same. It's just on a bigger scale. And to be honest, as I mentioned before, lace making is just using really stupidly fine threads. A lot of it is not dissimilar to making fishing nets, we just happen to make them with pretty bits in them. But so much of it is, you could do this with rope. I mean, it would be bigger, but you could do this with rope. Someone, now how am I going to find this? I know who posted it, which is help. I might be able to do this. Rory, do not be helping me. I don't need you helping me. Let me see if I can find this. I know who posted it. Of course there would be loads of those. Let's do posts from you friends. Jesus, I want a person. How cute's that? Although I'm not quite sure how that has Galicia B associated with it. That is her, I think. She recently posted a really... Oh, this woman is insane. Look at these hands. Look at the speed of these. She just seems to chuck bobbins and stuff comes out the other end. It's just frightening. I know who posted it. The question is which group did she post it in? Let's see if I can do this. Contemporary. No, I typed things. Oh. Contemporary. Posts. The obscene. Get out, dog. You're getting on my nerves. Here. This is posted by Glacier Bay. She's clearly, she's been doing that a long time. And she's not having to stop every 10 seconds to put in yet another pin, right? But what you're looking at there is lace making done with wire on like a 6 foot by 6 foot fence. Isn't that a thing of beauty, right? Now, I don't have that level of patience because I wouldn't be good with wire because wire doesn't bend so easy. But in the video that she's got on YouTube, in fact, let's see if I can... how am I going to do this? Copy link. There we go. Let's paste it in here. Oof! Oh, it's Facebooked it. Let's not Facebook it. Let's click on it and stop it and grab this. This is her video. Feel free to go and have a look. She covers a lot of things that she's made, but she does cover this fence, and you know, here it is. Let me turn the captions off so you can read it, but it is lace making done with a wire fence. Now, to me, I'd never thought of scaling it up to a wire fence. I mean, I'd not thought about it, because, well, if you think about it, you could do it with rope, for example. If you did it with rope rather than wires, which would make it a lot easier to work with, you could make that with rope. And now you've got decorative, highly unique. The toffs are going to really love that kind of shit, right? You know, you can imagine that the people who've got far more sense than money clamouring for some unique, but it's decorative, but it's functional. How cool is that? And I'm sitting there going, damn, why didn't I think of that? Because as you think about it. I mean, I am not the most religious person in the world, but picture the beauty of making a, let's call it rope, because rope bends whereas wires fight, right? Getting some steel frame fences and using rope to make lace inside of it where you have crosses for a church fence. You could write names and initials on them and have initialised gates that swing open for your driveway. You know, if you think of the geometric shapes, which are my favourite after all, they would work so well on something like this. And obviously you could use different thicknesses of rope to get slightly different effects. But just the thought of it, and you're sitting there going, I need this in my life. Now, I have wooden fence panels around my garden, and this is a good thing. But at the same time, my dad had more... I mean, if you ignore the pattern bit, he had fences more like this in his garden. I will see if I can track down your page. Hang on. Go back to here. If I click on you... sometimes these things... Petition around groups... profile... I'm going to open yet another Facebook, and I'm going to see if that one. Yes, that was where I was going. I was going to see if I could see it on your profile page. I shall stick a like for you. There you go. You only have 2 followers. Well, now you have 3. So there you go. Now you have 3. There you go. No, as I said to you before, I may have to talk to you about making a mat for me. But See, I love all of this. I love all these things. I really do. I will keep an eye on it. I will be definitely keeping an eye on your page. And I think this is one of the good things about crafts is that sometimes, I mean, obviously, you and I do a hobby where twisting threads, rope, whatever it is, I mean, yours is just a lot fatter than mine. We do a hobby of twisting threads. I bet some of your ropes aren't your ropes aren't connected and stuff. You just have a lot more control because they're a bit more solid. But there is a lot of similarity between the craft. It's just different material because yours is a lot bigger, but also with different intentions in mind. Yours is more functional, can be decorative with decoration to make it pretty, and of course can be decorational and stuck on a wall. Mine is really decorative only. Ooh, that's pretty. That's nice. I like that. Yes, I like that. See, again, I can see how it's constructed. Well, I can see the paths, and so I can mentally follow how the ropes, you know, if I follow, say, this one, if I start here at 12 o'clock, take the top one, it goes round, it comes down, it ducks underneath that twist there, it comes round, and then it goes round and enters and kind of goes round, and then slingshots round this bit, comes out and then goes round and comes then through here and back up under and past itself. And so I can see. Now, I don't know whether you start with, say, 3 lots of rope and then mingle them together kind of plat style, or whether you start with 5 bits of rope and build the whole thing, because both could work. I assume by default you start with 5 bits of rope and go round and round and twiddly, twiddly, twiddly and build up the pattern. Because an awful lot of it is the same rope crossing over itself, so hence I am making that assumption. But it is, to me, I mean, it is a beautiful way of taking something maybe you need, like a mat, and making it interesting rather than, I don't know, here is a mat that I've kind of sewed a bit of rope together, enjoy, right? Do you ever sew them together for strength, or do they just, it is run around 3 times and then, okay. Okay, so it's not even you do the 5 strands as kind of one and work with it. You individually take a single strand round 3 times and then add the light bits for effect. Even more impressive. I'd cheat. I'd want to use all 3 at the same time. But I guess that also helps with the hiding of the ends, because you've only got a couple of ends. Whereas, of course, I have a lot of ends. Constantly. Ends. I mean, let's face it, if you've got 100 bobbins, you've got 100 ends to be dealing with. This is why ends are a bit more of a problem for me. So yes, I can imagine that if you took out the light bit, so it was one single bit of string going round and 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 round, hiding the end does become a little bit easier because you've only got the start and the end bit, and that's it. That helps. I can see how that helps. I need to cough. I can definitely see how that helps. I'm really impressed by that. That's cool. I like that. And as you say, it's the sort of thing that I'm well, yeah, the edges do give you more ends to hide, very clearly, this is true. And unless you can hide a twist somewhere where you could use the same one for the inside and the outside one. Oh, you do have 6 from the filling. It's not one thing. It is not one single dark one that just goes round and round and round and round and round and round and round, fills out all the dark bits. It is 3 individual dark bits that go round and round and round. Okay. So yes, but So you've only, I mean, no offence, you've only got, well, 5 starts, 5 ends. You've only got 10 ends. I've got 100 ends in my 5-inch square. I have way more ends, dude. Way more ends. Way more ends. But, which is why mine's such a nightmare. But I do love this. This is glorious. Rory, respect, please. Thank you. Yeah, this is a glorious thing. And I can also see how you make that, and then you think, well, I could add this to it, and then you make a bigger and a more complicated one, and then you do that, and I could make this one. How long did that take you? Out of interest, how long did that mat take you? How long did it take to make? I should probably do a bit more lace making, really, shouldn't I? Let's put these bobbins back down on the couch because the dog's gone. Otherwise, that will be a problem. Let me undo you a second. There we go. Let's make sure we start correctly. You've been discarded. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So. Took a year. Wow. See, I think an awful lot of people kind of forget how long some of this shit takes. And as you know, like I was working out yesterday, the amount of time it is. Yes, and this is part of the joy of doing it as more of your hobby than a business. Now, I'm not saying that you can't sell them and make money out of it afterwards. You know, making a few quid in return is always definitely a thing, right? That and just how many mats can a man and a girl need in their life? But the answer is more than you know. But you still only can need so many. There is not an infinite amount of use, personal use you can get for them. So, I mean, it's like my tea towels. As I said, I must have made a couple of 100 tea towels. I don't need that many. There's me, dude. I only need, kind of a couple of tea towels, really. You can use a few more, because it never hurts to have some more. But you just don't need that many tea towels. And so, it becomes the, if you're like me, your will to create is greater than your ability to use. And so, if you can find willing victims to buy them, hallelujah. If not, to at least give them to. It is a good thing because you then have the satisfaction that someone out there is making use of something you made and usually appreciates it. I made a load of tea towels for people at work, and one of them took them home, and his wife said, "How come she's still working? Why is this not her business?" And the short answer is A, I do not want to have to make 600 identical tea towels. I like the ability to go, "Oh, so you want some tea towels? What colours would you prefer? I'll surprise you with a pattern." Right? So that I have the choice. So one person said anything but yellow. Or another one went anything but pink. Well, that's good because I'm not really a pink person. And as you say, some of it is a challenge to yourself. To be honest, that is 90% of the reason for the net curtain. It is a challenge to myself 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1 out. Let's put you as far out as we can get. Some of it is the challenge to yourself. Some of it is because you know you want to give it as a gift. Some of it is because it's there and not necessarily anything more complicated than it existed. That's right, I already twisted them. And you want to make one because you've seen one, and now you want to make one to prove to yourself that you could. And as I say, sometimes there is no more complicatedness than to it than I want to try a technique. I want to try this pattern because it has a bit of a mind fart in it, and you know you're in a position where you know people will look at it and it will mess with their heads a bit, and you want to do it because you want to prove to yourself you can do it. And this hole's being annoying, and I can't, for some reason it's completely the wrong distance for me. Why is this hole being annoying? There it is. Now, why the 3? 1, 2, 3, 4. One of you's in the wrong place. Typical. Makes it look funny. Let's try this again. There we go. Some of it is very much because you can. I mean, I designed this square. Now, an awful lot of people at my experience level, I really should point out, I am not an experienced lace maker by any means, and that looks funny. Hang on. No. Just looks funny. I'm not an experienced lace maker. The truth be told, I have probably done, in my entire existence, I am in my 3rd month of making lace. Now, there was a long gap in the middle. So, I did a few weeks when I was a kid, and I mean weeks, if that. Probably 2, 2.5, maybe 3 at best. So the general stitch work was in the back of my head somewhere. So how to do half stitch, whole stitch, all those kind of things were in there. But as a kid, like a lot of kids, it didn't grow very fast because you did I need to pick this bobbin, I need to put, I will pick this one, I will put it down there. And it just took you forever because you were doing it too literally, if you know what I mean. Much like knitting, I didn't hate knitting. My mum would drag me down the local wool shop, because we actually had a local wool shop, and she'd get me to pick out a pattern. We'd then go and pick out some colours from the type of wool that the pattern was designed for, so that it would definitely work. Whereas if you, to avoid you've got a slightly different wool, we'll need this, or she took all of that away, and it would be, if Sirdar, I don't know, pig brains was the wool, then that was what we had. So we shall have a break for ads. Yay, bank from ads. But because she would make, she would make my life easy by picking exactly the same brand of wool that it was designed for, all of these things. So my mother would then say, right, you're going to be, so I'd pick, I know, white as the background, purple for this patch, green for that patch. Great. So we go home, my mum would give me my pair of knitting needles, they'd be perfectly straight when I started. I would cast on my stitches, I would count them 100 times to make sure they were right. I'd give them to my mother, she'd make sure they were right, because I'm sure nearly anyone who's ever knitted or crocheted will vouch, you never get the same number twice. So she would make sure that I had the right number to start with, and off I go, right? But the problem is that it would take me an hour plus to do a row. Even though I was a child, and clearly child are small people, and I was skinny too, so it's not like I was, I was not my 600-pound lifer. I was not making adult jumpers at an early age. I was really skinny. I was like 3 stone and 5'4", and by the time I'd kind of got halfway up the back, because you always start with the back of a jumper when you're knitting, I was growing out of it because it had taken that long. And so my mother would take it off me, complete it in like 3 days or whatever, and she was, I think she stayed up all night. She must have done, because she was not that fast a knitter. I mean, she was faster than me, but she was not, industrial strength knitter. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's say it was a week. It felt like a couple of days, but let's say it was a couple of weeks even. She would have completed it. But it meant that I never finished it. I never made the jumper. I'd made part of the jumper, usually a bit that looked a bit shit, but I had never made the jumper. So I began to resent knitting as a whole, because I was slow at it, and I never got the joy and satisfaction of completing it and going, I made that, because I didn't make 90% of it. And so, as I got older, I ceased knitting jumpers. In fact, I will say, my mother used to randomly ask me about, what jumper do you want? And I picked one. I know she started it. I managed to pick one she never finished. It had this kind of 3D effect bodice thing where there were like dents and beads on it. So unlike me. I really wanted this jumper for some reason. I think because it was quite evil. And it was made out of the tiniest of knitting wool to get the detail in. And she didn't finish that one. So, let's be honest here. She was not perfect. But because I never got to finish it, I just didn't enjoy it. And I couldn't enjoy it because I didn't complete it. You need to do something that you complete. And this is, I think, part of the problem a lot of children have, is that because they are naturally slower at learning it and believing that they have learned it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that because they then either rush to complete it because they're getting bored, or they then end up being nagged to work on it because it's progressing so slowly and they've got bored of it by then, that kids don't have the love of crafting that they probably would do later in life. Now, as I say, I've been doing this realistically now for a couple of months. And here I am embarking on a net curtain that will take me most of a year at this rate. Although, as I said, I'm going to be off for most of December, so I'm hoping to make a good dent in it during that time. But the principle of it all is that, this is how it works. And as an adult, see, this does not look even, and my brain is offended by the unevenness. Let me take a photo of it so I can zoom in and look. Hang on. It's going to be about there. Doesn't have to be perfectly central. I think it's just tensioning. I think if I tension these better, it will look less weird. And obviously some of these as well. I think some of it is purely a little lack of tension. But as an adult, I hadn't done any knitting for like 20 years when this occurred. My husband of the time said, once I'd learned crochet, great, you can knit me a jumper now. One of the most cruel things you can say to knitter stroke crocheter is use the wrong hobby. Because that is just how to anger them. Something special, because, well, it's just how to anger them. And you can knit me a jumper now. So I knitted him a jumper. That thing was a monstrosity. Because, as a child, I'd constantly bent knitting needles because I held them too tight. And because my knitting was too tight, so you kind of had to play tug of war to get the stitches off. Which then in turn bent them, and was why I was hanging on so hard, because I was trying to tug, right? Well, I took it to heart, didn't I? So I knitted loosely. I did not do a swatch, because swatch is for, well, idiots, and it's a waste of yarn, right? So I didn't do a swatch. So I used the right knitting needles and the right yarn. This thing could cover a county. This thing, frankly, it would have been a jumper for Wales, right? This thing was huge. A car would fit in this jumper. And then realising how badly I'd done at the front, I had to do the same for the back, because, well, you had to do the same for front and back. So I did the front and back, and they were incredibly baggy and loose. And then I did the arms at the right tension. So it's not just a gigantic sweater kind of comedy style. The arms look fine. But of course they're on like 1.5 metre wide body. So it still looks pretty comical because now it looks more like a clown jumper. And this thing was, frankly, not exactly a looker. I mean, it was a fairly simple jumper, but due to its unique qualities, it was a minger. It was utterly terrible. Well, partly because I'd never said I wanted to knit, and in fact I'd always pointed out I hate knitting. I really do hate knitting, and I'm not going to knit, and I'm not going to knit. And thank you for that, Amy, he'd got me knitting it. So I felt he kind of took it upon himself, and it's your own fault. You told me to knit it after I've learnt to crochet, which I'm enjoying. And you said, knit me a jumper. So I knit you a jumper, it's on your own head. I then decided to crochet me a jumper. Now, you don't find many crochet jumpers because part of a jumper's charm is the stretchiness, and crochet doesn't really stretch in the same way. So, using the shape of the pattern that I had made to knit the jumper, I crocheted using that kind of dimensions. So when it said go in by so many stitches over the next row, I kind of made sure it shrunk by the right amount. And I made me a crochet jumper. And to be honest, if I'd knitted it, it would have been better, but it was kind of it had a bit of a rustic charm to it. Let's leave it as that. It was very much a rustic charm. But I completed my jumper, and I in fact have worn it out in public, in quotes. I have worn it outside the house, whereas the other one has been, I'm not even sure it still exists. I think it might have been burnt ceremoniously somewhere. But I have worn my jumper out, and it was the first thing I crocheted for me. In fact, I think it was the second thing I crocheted ever. But it was an ugly jumper. In fact, actually, let me I might have a picture of it, of the crocheted one, that is. Let me just check. Possibly not. How I learned this? It may be. Oh my god, I do. I have a picture. Now, as I said, this is not winning. This is not going to win beauty contests. But this is my jumper. This was my jumper. It could have been uglier. It could have been better looking. but it's a jumper. And it's a reasonable jumper. I made it in the same yarn I made the hubby's jumper, only mine's to scale. This was not. So this was me crocheting my jumper. Now, I should point out that I did crochet some great and glorious things later. So I made this. I wore this a lot, actually. I wore this a lot. This is a summer kind of thing, basically to stop your arms sweating to your body. These were for my dad. These are badly designed, but they were for my dad. I then got into blankets because I always go big or go home. So this was a baby blanket I I crocheted in a couple of days. This I made for some of my friends, some of my greatest friends, and I kind of started in the middle and then kind of worked out. They liked colourful. I'm not into colourful, and so I just randomly picked a colour and did a bit with it and different stitches, and they loved it. I think it was hideous. I made this for a friend. I taught myself to Tunisian crochet. Now, it's a bit small for what it is, but this was a baby blanket for their baby, and I hadn't really learnt how to handle the colours, hence it's kind of backward in the middle, but that was that. Then I made the traditional granny square, because, well, everyone makes granny square. Then I made this, which was a much more successful. Now, this was very up my street, and I imagine it's a bit more up your street too, from your Celtic thoughts, in that I made this kind of more Celtic looking, Roman, Greekish kind of looking thing. I really quite liked that. That was a good thing. Then I made a plain one, so that doesn't really count. Then I made this. Now, what you can't tell from this is how big it is. This is, I know, probably, I'm trying to express it in good terms. This is a baby blanket size, but it's done as a lap blanket. But it was more clever than that, because on the back is a pocket. And in the pocket goes somebody's feet, because this was designed to be a leg blanket for a lady in a wheelchair who was the wife of somebody I knew, and I made her this. And funnily enough, although it looks pink and red, it's not pink and red, it's actually orange. It sounds like it should clash something horrible. This was one of my most favourite things I did. I designed this. I designed the pattern for it. And people go, oh, I can possibly do that. I did it in paint with pixels. Literally, Microsoft Paint and pixels. And I loved that. I truly loved that. Then I did this one. Now, obviously, I've written work in progress over it. A friend of mine drew the grey fox. I then, using cross-stitch software, by the way, the guy who writes the cross-stitch software is my hero. I've known him for many, many years. And he and I, we haven't seen each other for quite a while because I stopped going to the events. Yeah, the knots in the corners again. But with this one, this was for a guy who plays a grey fox as a furry, and he's in Germany, and I sent him this. And when he showed it to his co-workers, they were all flabbergasted that this was not machine made. They really struggled to understand, even though we'd had a few pictures along the way of me doing it, that this was done by some random bird in her sitting room, right? I then did a teddy bear for somebody's baby. I then did Sensei Ted, so I made the gi top and the black belt without a pant. That was a good laugh. This was the minging hat. I'm not a hat person, but occasionally in England we do get cold winters and cold ears are a thing. So I made this. This is a crochet hat, it's not knitted. So it's got kind of cables on it. They're a bit weird in crochet, but they've got cables in it. And to be honest, it's got a bit of stretch to it because of the way it's done. This went to a friend in America, but technically it's a plain blanket, so it's a bit boring. This was the design I came up with, and I did a couple of variants. So I had this one. You can't really see, but there's each of the sections has a slightly different texture. So shut up, dog. The white background has one texture. The purple kind of strength to it has another one, and then inside the kind of little gaps in the middle had a different one. This was from my friend Tim, and she is now Suzanne. So Suzanne is now the proud owner of the Ferrari dancing horse. I made this for her, and she was leaving the country. She emigrated to Australia, and I had to take the week off because she was leaving at the end of the week and I was only halfway through it. It was like, oh shit. So I managed to do half of this blanket in under a week. So go me. And I went round, I finished it on the Tuesday, took it around to her on the Thursday, and she is the proud owner of a Ferrari dancing horse. There was me doing, this one was my dad, and I've actually got this one, I think. Yeah, I think I've got this one. I've got one very like it, if not. I've also got this one. That one was for me, which is a bit bigger. That one I gave to a friend. I got commissioned for these two, so I was asked to do tucks. And this is a skateboarding logo. I have no idea what it's a logo for. I just did it. Then I did this one, which I also really like. As I said, it came up a bit. This was hideous. That just was hideous. I hated that. This was nice, but not nice. So it's kind of got like diamond-shaped swirly bits in it. A bit like spiders, actually. Then I did a Celtic knot. Look. Celtic knot. Yeah. I designed that one, obviously. I took the knot and worked out where all the stitches went. Then I did Pudsey Bear, because as Brits, we all know Pudsey. And then, based on Pudsey, someone went, can you do a Hesketh bear? So here's a Hesketh bear. Hesketh bears. Why is it not clicking on my Hesketh? Anyway, Hesketh bear is don't know why it's not working. Basically the same bear with a helmet with a Union Jack. That Union Jack was evil. Oh, the evilness that was the Union Jack. Then I did like a cabled thing, and then I did a baby blanket for a girl at work with a Dalmatian puppy. This was me playing with some ugly yarn and a technique that I wasn't sure I was going to like. I gave this one to the guy who used to come and collect my tapes. I did this one. You can't really see. It's got kind of a pattern around the edge and a plain bit in the middle. I just made that one because I was bored. I made a couple of these. TARDISes. TARDIS doors. TARDIS doors are a thing. And so I've made two of those. So that was a thing. The door handle's actually a handle. You can put your hand under it. The panels for these were hard because I chose to continue the white underneath rather than having two really thin strips of white. Regrets were made. Then I discovered an entrelac scenario, so I made a square blanket. Then I made a star blanket. That was kind of cool. I was kind of cool with that. Then I made this for a friend's daughter. I hated that blanket. Then I made a really big kind of entrelac blanket. Then I made this one for the people. I'd made that really colourful one. And so it's got a pocket in one side that you fold it up, and it's not really a cushion because it's solid as hell, but it kind of compacts down into a cushion size, so you can put it away nicely. Whoops, didn't want to do that. Then I made this for a lady who was going in for chemo. It's not really apparent, but it's Cadbury's purple and black. Those are her favourite colours. And then I started knitting and kind of got bored of filling out my blog. So, you know, I've been busy. I do things. Finished it 3 hours before the exhibition. That's kind of a me thing. I think sometimes we do that. You almost burn out through effort, and I think the net curtain's going to suffer from that. I do honestly believe that I am going to, especially because let's say I make 21 identical squares, it's going to feel a little bit of a factory process. And the first few won't be so bad, but ask me kind of towards the end at like number 18, I'm going to be sick of making squares, right? And I do think that you can. It's not that you hate the product. It's not that you hate the end result. It's not that you hate the hobby. But you do kind of need a break. And sometimes you need a break because it didn't work and you're really disappointed with it and it just fills you with disappointment to look at it. And even if someone's paying for it and you're going to be got rid of it, sometimes you really have to force yourself to kind of get in there and get on with it. So I don't know. I personally do suffer from the, as I say, I'm going to call it burnout, but it's not true burnout in that, you know, if I picked a completely different pattern, I'd be really enthusiastic and willing to go off and do that. It's the current thing in the current way of doing it is, I'm just done with that for now. It's like practicing a piece of music. The piece of music can be really beautiful, but 6,000 iterations later, you are really wearing thin of hearing it. You have done it. And you start making mistakes because your brain is switching off, because it's kind of had its fill. And so sometimes you do need to kind of do something else. You need that other input into it to kind of become a bit more enthusiastic again about it, because you need to go off and do something else, which I think is part of the advantage of the hobbies like this, where if you have more than one lace billow, you can go off and make something else and come back to it. So I do imagine over the course of the forthcoming year, or however long this takes, that there will be a few interludes, because my brain might be switching off if I don't. But we have now got to the end of the first cloth section. I promise you I did not feed my dogs coffee or sugar, although they do like pear drops. They haven't had any. But we seem to be somewhat awake today. Now, I have... How many more bobbins do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I've got 10 more bobbins. How far does that 10 take it? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Oh, we actually have enough to do the rose grounds. So, although we're 3 hours in, the painkillers kicked in a bit for my back. So I think we will start the rose ground. Doesn't look like I tied this one up properly, so that's a good start. Actually, I don't need to do that, do I? Now, I have to think about this carefully. I need a second pin. Thank you, children. And a second pair of bobbins. I'll stitch those together. Now, I need to hole stitch. Actually, before I do that, I need to cross each and every one of you pairs that we're going to need across. Now, you 4 are the size. 1, 2. I need 2, 4, 6, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, So, you lot can slide around there and have a cloth to help keep you out of the way. That was the one holding the bobbins. I didn't want to pull that one. Ah, shite. That was not a good plan. Well, Kimber, that was really not the plan you had in mind, was it? Remember all my bobbins from yesterday? Well, now they're in a pile of mess. Oh, never mind. So, we will cover you up a bit. And extract those cloths out of there. And look for... Gonna have to be one of you two then. Okay, let me just pick up my magic pile of bobbins because I do need to do something with them. All of them? What does she think it is? I really do need to do something with those. Let me dispose of them in another part of the room so that I don't do something chaotic with them. To normality. Thank you, Amy. My table a little bit. Get your nose out of that side. Busy. Right. And we can... Or we could take... We need to push more bobbins, more pins down, actually. Because we can. So, let me turn this at a bit of an angle. Turn it at the other angle so we can check this side. I can't see those at all. They're at exactly the wrong distance. Thanks, glasses. If I take my glasses off, I can't see them. If I put my glasses on, I can't see them. Excellent. Yes, I know I need new glasses. I'm aware of that. Right. But I don't really want to spend £1,000 on a new pair of glasses. Because £1,000 is on a new pair of glasses is £1,000 on a new pair of glasses. And for the majority of life, these glasses are sufficient. It adds time. So, put those down there. So we've done that. We now need to do a whole stitch for you. And go back to hiding you around the corner. Keep some of you out of the way. Actually, what would be easier is if I turn this and we work down as a diagonal, like that, perhaps. Maybe not quite so much, but a bit more of an angle. There we go. So, half stitch, steal a pin. Half stitch. Half stitch. stitch, half stitch. Actually, let's take you two out for the moment. Let's leave you to snug in. Half stitch, pin, half stitch, half stitch. Half stitch, half stitch. There we go. Put you out the way. Push you back a bit. See, to me, this is the problem with lace making, is I'm not necessarily the slow lace maker. The biggest problem I've got is the constantly stopping to put the pins in, which takes far longer than the actual work does. So primarily, you know, it's 90% pin placement and like 10% time doing work and finding the stupid hole. Just there. Even though the holes are bigger, occasionally the holes are evading me. But yeah, it is kind of weird, really. Let's take my two pins out of there. I will want them later. There we go. I don't know why I'm reserving them. It's not like they're different pins. But in my head, they are now the support pins. So they've gone to the relegated to the sidelines. I think one of the things about lace making is to an extent it is ambidextrous, because both hands are in use. And although I am predominantly right-handed, it's surprising how much you do with your left hand, and you don't really put a lot of thought into it. It just becomes part of it. I will say, if you do the underhand technique, which I can show you one memento. So if I push those four out the way, roll them up. So in the underhand technique, you take them underhand and you cross them like this in your hands. And it's really not that different. I mean, it results in the same move, so it doesn't matter. But obviously it becomes a bit more like the worry balls. Those Japanese worry bead things where you rotate the balls round and round in your hand. It is a dexterous thing, and I've always been slightly ambidextrous. I mean, I'm not proper ambidextrous. You see my handwriting with my left hand, it looks like a 3-year-old did it. But I am capable of doing much with my left hand, and I shoot left-handed, for example, but that was more because I couldn't wink. when I learnt to shoot, I couldn't close one eye, and then when I did manage to close one eye, the only eye I could close was the wrong one. So I ended up shooting left-handed, and there's no reason why. I mean, I can now wink either way. You know, it's really not a big deal for me now. But of course, now I'm an adult, and you know, like everything, I've had more time. I've got more understanding. I've got more everything, and so yeah, I can wink now with either eyeball. So I could easily learn to shoot right-handed now, but all my shooting practice to date was done left-handed. So by default, I would naturally choose to fire a weapon left-handed. And of course, technically, you're supposed to have left-handed weapons, blah, 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 blah. But I don't need it to be a left-handed weapon because, of course, I could shoot it the right way around. But it does matter distinctly for sight setup which way round you're intending to use it. So you're a bit long compared to all your friends. We will shorten you a little bit. There we go. Rifles. Mainly air rifles, to be fair. I have shot some proper rifles. Went to a open day thing and shot some military ones, and they went, "Oh, you'll have to be careful," because of course I was a girl and I was like 5'4" and 3 stone, and I kind of went, "It'll be fine," and I picked this thing up. I got a bullseye with it, and it was kind of amusing because, well, it did kick like a mule, but I'd already put it quite squarely into my shoulder, so it was not gonna. It couldn't bounce into my shoulder, and I expected it to kick because they did say it will kick. But they weren't letting a lot of, they were generally not letting the public fire them. It was mainly them firing them. And I said, look, I've been shooting things since I was 7. If it hurts, it hurts. If it doesn't hurt, it doesn't hurt. It's fine. I take full responsibility. So they let me. So I had a bit of fun. I didn't get to fire anything too automatic. I had some semi-automatic fun, but no, you know, there was no kind of mass weapons of death, doom, you know, none of those like chain guns you see on the side of aircraft, of helicopters in films or anything, nothing exciting like that. But I did have lots of fun. I look back on that day with joyous memories, and the look on my boyfriend's face at the time, because, well, I was old enough to have one by that point, and he was a little put out, because that was a bit scary. By the way, he dumped me because I grew too tall, so that was the deciding factor, is that at 5'4", I think I was heading for 5'5", I was going to be too tall, so I was no longer desired. But I was young, it didn't really matter. I wasn't exactly scarred for life, so it's not a big deal. But I did find it amusing. It's not my fault you're short. So let's put you back round the corner again, because it makes a bit more working room. And I like some working room. Rory, I know you're very cute. He's got his head in my lap trying to be all cute. I know you're cute. I own you. I know how cute you are. I do. I am aware. Oops. Before I do that, is that right? Yes, that's right. It's just that you two are slightly different lengths. Got 2 pins for the price of 1. Stab. you down before it's too late. Not straight. No, it's not straight enough. Sorry, Mr. Pin. You're too bent. You're annoying. That doesn't look right. And part of the reason that doesn't look right is because that's lifted up. Which is why the pins are so incredibly useful. How are we doing? Was it really only 15 minutes since I last looked at the clock? Well, there we go. But it is 5:45, to be fair, so I am getting hungry, as are my puppies. So. Shame it's such a long drive. I'd come and see you. I think I've got pizza for tea, but I've got to cook it, so... not that that's a big deal, but I haven't got a Sunday dinner today. What choices have I got? I've got fish fingers, chicken, not a chicken, but chicken bits, other chicken bits, pizzas, potato. Well, I could do baked potatoes. Put them on for a long time. Not sure what I've got to put on them. What have I got to put on them, Rory? Other than a copious amount of cheese, because I have more cheese than a cheese factory. I like cheese. Pot noodles. Got pot noodles. I really do like pot noodles. I've got a real problem with pot noodles. Hideously not particularly good for you that they are. I really do like a good hot pot noodle. So that will be a thing at some point. Usually I have pot noodles a bit more during the working day as kind of like lunch or something. But I do like pot noodles. got some sausages, I think. Could do sausages and Yorkshire pudding. And some roast potatoes. That could be a dinner. I haven't really got any other vegetables though. I've got some parsnips actually. Got some parsnips. I haven't really got anything else though. Actually, that's not true. I've got some carrots actually. Probably going to be pizza though. By the time I get in there, I'll look at it and just go, screw the pizza. I don't need you to. You four are already done. Stupid woman. You're already done. You are spoken for. You are out of the equation. You need to go round a bit more. That's why my brain farted, because what? You four are now out of the equation and dealt with. It's you that comes round. And we'll start again. Let's put you out of the way. And then we need my two stabby pins. In the hole. Stop stealing pins from that side, I think. Take you out before you become a problem. First, steal you to put in. That stops you from coming down. That's a good thing. Apparently not. One for the bottom. Itch, itch, itch. keep going to steal pins, but I feel less comfortable stealing pins because I need to leave enough pins in to be strong. And although I can steal more from the right hand side than the left hand side, your brain doesn't feel comfortable sometimes with how that looks, because, well, you're not working in a flat line down, so you can't keep the flat line going across, so it just kind of confuses everything a bit. To stealing pins from the book. Well, we already know that to complete this you need a minimum of 1800 pins plus, so it's very difficult to, I know some lace makers put loads of pins in a pin cushion, but we need a lot of pins, dude. We need a lot of pins, so it's kind of far more practical to get them from the pot. And these feel a bit short, but I'm not quite sure why they feel short. They're not any shorter than the ones that have gone before. Actually, they are by about an inch. That'll be why. Let's lengthen these a little then. That's better. Which means you need to come out better. You weren't so bad, but you are a mess because you slid down. There we go. So that's that side. And the last set for this row. Two pins. Wait. 6 o'clock. It is very tempting to call it quits here at 6 o'clock, to go and get some food, to do the food thing, to do a bit of dog thing, so they don't all get excited again. Go and do some dog thing, and maybe return in a minute. So I'm going to do that, and thanks for coming, but I shall be back later. Hope to see you there. Bye!